The Kolkata Knight Riders find themselves in quite a conundrum going into this particular edition of the IPL auction. They've released a lot of players, and believe you me when I say a lot, I mean a lot of players, although not all of them were really up to their own choice, but they are entering the auction with 11 available slots, but only 7.05 crores in their kitty. So there's really not a lot of money to fill, but there are a lot of slots for them to actually be filling. So how exactly are the team going to be approaching this? Well, to actually figure that out, I'll take a look at why it is the franchise found it within them to release these many players to begin with. Because if you can see, the number of players they've released is actually a lot more than the number of players they've retained. But not all of these players who they've released were down to their own choices. Again, the top two names, if you're looking at Pat Cummins and Sam Billings, neither of whom would have been released by KKR if they'd not requested it. Cummins because he wants to take a break from the IPL to focus on ODIs this year. Billings because he wants to take some time away from the IPL and focus on becoming a regular in the test team. So he wants to spend more time in the domestic circuit, in the county circuit of England. That is why these two have been released. If you look at the other names, you look at someone like Aaron Finch and Alex Hales, both of whom were intertwined because last year's auction, KKR got Hales at his base price. He pulled out, so they signed Aaron Finch as his replacement. Auction rules state that both of these players, whichever one it is that KKR chose to retain was up to them, but neither of them will be part of the auction pool this year. So both of them had to be released. That means 4 players who potentially at least 3 of them would have been in the squad, they've had to replace. The good news, of course, is that the likes of Lockie Ferguson, Ramanullah Gurbaz and Shardul Thakur were brought in before the auction via player trades, although Shardul, whilst a great option, did actually end up eating 10 crores straight away out of their purse because they traded him for Aman Khan, a player who was obviously much cheaper on the wage bill. Now, the real question is, from all of these players which they have to fill, again, remember, 11 slots is only on paper. They might, of course, end up getting not the full 25. They currently have 14 slots. So of those 14, 3 can be overseas players. So if you're KKR, the name of the game is going to be bargain buys. You're not going to go big for any of the players who are expected to be breaking bank, because quite frankly, if you break bank, you're not getting any other players. No more Pat Cummins style buys this time around. There's going to be sensible buying, hopefully, mainly because, well, they don't really have a choice. 7.05 crores. So who are the 5 players it is that they can target? Well, for me, I picked Manish Pandey as one because, again, decent base price. They might actually be able to get him at base price as someone who does have a history at KKR. Remember, he was a key part of the side that won the title in 2014, and they could use some solidity in the middle order, at least even on the bench as things stand, because he may not be a starting figure given the kind of players they have already, but he could very well be a good bench option. Hrithik Chatterjee is someone I mentioned because, well, they need a wicket keeper, and perhaps more importantly, they need some Bengali players in there. Anukul Roy is really the only one who's a Bengali player, and I know it might seem like a weird thing, but it is important to have some connect to the team, to your local, to the locality that it is that your team is claiming to represent. Right now, KKR don't really have too much of a Bengali influence, and having someone like Hrithik there will change that and also give them a good bench option. Priyam Garg is another, again, interesting case. Indian all-rounder, could be a useful player to have. Good middle order bat would be an option for them, especially if they feel that someone like maybe a Rinku Singh or might need some rest sometime. Priyam Garg might be a good option there. Mayank Markande, why I'm picking him is because, well, quite frankly, they really do need a backup spinner to Varun Chakravarti. If Varun gets injured, and to be fair, he does have a bit of an history with injuries in recent times. If he gets injured, there's really no one in the current list who they can choose to target. So they can choose to replace. So someone like Markande would be a good bench option. There are, of course, other leg spinners that they can target. And the last player, that's why I mentioned Shreyas Gopal, someone who was released by SRH, didn't really play too many games for them. Gopal is someone who's a handy lower order bat as well, so would add to KKR's options with the bat too. But would be required more than anything else is bowling. Now, as far as other players from the auction pool that they can target, well, let's say I don't think there's going to be too many players from the 2 crore bracket that they're going to target, unless they really need to fill, they're getting someone who could be seen as a bargain buy and at base price, because a lot of these players, I think, will either go unsold or for reasons that, talk about team combinations. But the ones who will get sold, someone like a Sam Curran, someone like, of course, a Cameron Green are going to be well beyond KKR's reach because they just don't have the money to get them. So from these, I think there's very few players who they'll really be able to pull in. Although there's a lot of foreign players here, but even in the 1.5 crore bracket, there might be someone who they can get in. Again, if they want a different opener option, like, because again, they don't have the likes of Hales or Finch, they could go for someone like a Jason Roy. If they get him at base price, would actually be a downgrade in terms of money that Hales and Finch were getting, because both of them were 2 crore players. Would be some sensible buying there. The 1 crore bracket, again, I mentioned Manish Pandey. Maybe they could go back for Nabi as a replacement for someone like, say, Sunil Narayan, which was what they did last year. But even beyond that, not too many options here who they can look for, who might actually be value for money. The 50 lakh, they might be other players who they can look to get, maybe, just maybe get someone. As I said, Markande was one option. Dasan Shanaka is always a good option. Maybe take a punt on someone like Romario Shepherd, or really beyond that, though, there's not a lot of players who they might look to target from this particular bracket. From here as well, again, maybe someone like a Dominic Drakes or Chamika Karunaratne, who they had in their squad last year but didn't really get a game and was released. Beyond that, there's not, again, a lot of players here who they might look to target. In the 50 lakh bracket, remember, there's a lot of players. From here to, I don't see too many options. Maybe they look to buy back Shivam Mavi. Maybe, if he's available on the cheap, why not? But Mavi, I doubt, will be available on the cheap. There's not too many players who, not too many Indian pacers who have his kind of experience, and he's played a lot of domestic cricket for UP. Otherwise, beyond that, not too many options that they're looking at, but they really will need to look for a lot of bargain buys, because again, they don't quite have the purse to actually look to buy too many players on big money. So in that regard, I don't expect them to be one of the teams who's going to be setting the auction on fire. For them, the name of the game has to be look for value for money and look to plug as many holes in the squad as is possible, and perhaps more importantly, really pray that the Shardul Thakur trade, good as it may be, actually works out well for them, because that's the only way to justify having him and taking away so much from the total purse left. So in that sense, KKR, I'm expecting to be one of the quieter teams, but if they can get some bargain buys, they'll consider a very, very good auction. That, though, is just how I feel about all of this. What do you guys think? Well, you can let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so that you get a notification when we're going live or uploading a new video. Then you can also go ahead and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the Sportslick app for all of the updates from the IPL auction. Thank you all once again for joining us in this video. I hope to see you with us when we're covering the IPL auction live. But for now, goodbye.